Hello students, I'm going to show you how to complete the close reading exercise for the homework this week. Let's read the instructions. Read the question, number 1. Number 2, read and annotate the selected text with highlights, comments, and links. Answer the question on page 2 of this document. Don't forget double space with proper heading. So let's go ahead and follow instructions and read the question. What does Coates believe about the afterlife, and how does this affect his idea about justice and forgiveness? How does he communicate this? Let me read it one more time. What does Coates believe about the afterlife, and how does this affect his ideas about justice and forgiveness? How does he communicate this? Okay, I see here that it's on page 4 and 5 of the Between the World and Me text. So I'm going to read the text right before this, just to get some context. So here I am on page 4 and 5. Right before the paragraph is in blue. I've highlighted the selected text in the other document in blue, and I've highlighted some special sentences here right before this paragraph to give you some context for this paragraph. It's important to read around the selected text so we know what situation Coates is in. So it says here, the abuses that have fallen from these policies, the sprawling carceral state, the random detention of Black people, the torture of suspects, are the product of a democratic will. And so to challenge the police is to challenge the American people who send them into the ghettos armed with the same self-generated fears that compelled the people who think they are white to flee the cities and into the dream. The problem with the police is not that they are fascist pigs, but that our country is ruled by majoritarian pigs. So it looks like Coates is really upset, and that's because one of his good friends, Prince Jones, as you know from the reading, got killed by police in Prince George County. And he says here that the problem isn't so much fascism being like authoritarianism, tyrants, dictators. The problem is the majority of us are pigs. And that's what led to Prince Jones's death and the death of many Black people, in Ta-Nehisi Coates' opinion. So now that I know the context for this selected passage here, I can continue reading. I know that Prince Jones died, and I know that Coates believes that it's not just the fault of one person, but a whole society, a democratic society that led to the death of Prince Jones and to the deaths and torture and abuse of Black people in this country. So let's read the selected text now. I knew some of this even then, sitting in Rankin Chapel, even if I could not yet express it. So forgiving the killer of Prince Jones would have seemed irrelevant to me. The killer was the direct expression of all his country's beliefs. And raised conscious, in rejection of a Christian God, I could see no higher purpose in Prince's death. I believed, and still do, that our bodies are ourselves, that my soul is the voltage conducted through neurons and nerves, and that my spirit is my flesh. Prince Jones was the one of one, and they had destroyed his body, scorched his shoulders and arms, ripped open his back, mangled lung, kidney, and liver. I sat there feeling myself a heretic, believing only in this one-shot life in the body. For the crime of destroying the body of Prince Jones, I did not believe in forgiveness. When the assembled mourners bowed their heads in prayer, I was divided from them because I believed that the void would not answer back. Wow, a really powerful passage here about Coates and how he feels about concepts like forgiveness and even about God here. So what I like to do is read it once, and I should read it a second time and look for things to highlight and kind of ask questions about. My purpose here is to answer this question: what does Coates believe about the afterlife, and how does this affect his ideas about justice and forgiveness, and how does he communicate this? So I'm going to read it again, looking for answers to questions about the afterlife, justice, and forgiveness. I knew some of this even then, sitting in Rankin Chapel, even if I could not yet express it. So forgiving the killer of Prince Jones would have seemed irrelevant to me. So it looks like he doesn't really care. He thinks that forgiving is not that important, or at least not so much that it's not important, it's irrelevant. He's not saying forgiving in general is not important, but forgiving the killer of Prince Jones. The killer was the direct expression of all his country's beliefs. Okay, so he sees that Jones died not just because of one individual act, but because of all his country's beliefs. I'm going to actually highlight this one in strong yellow. And raised conscious in rejection of a Christian God. Okay, so he's definitely rejecting any idea about the afterlife or God here. I could see no higher purpose in Prince's death. So when Prince Jones dies, that means, some people say like, oh, now because Prince Jones died, we can now, keep the police more accountable, we can march more. He doesn't see a purpose in his death. Why? We always want to know that when people die, that there's a purpose for them. And it seems that Ta-Nehisi Coates is rejecting that purpose. See no higher purpose. I'm going to highlight that part right there. I feel like I'm highlighting everything. Sorry, guys. I believed and still do that our bodies are ourselves, that my soul is the voltage conducted through neurons and nerves, and that my spirit is my flesh. Okay, so there's more images here about how he rejects, God. He rejects the higher purpose that God brings, or belief in a God brings. And so he makes these statements here that, if he has a soul, the soul is actually, the electricity going through your body. So I'm going to do that: voltage conducted through neurons and nerves, and my spirit is my flesh. Guys, this is big. This is a big statement he's making here, that he's rejecting the spirit, and he's saying that the only thing that really is there is my flesh. My spirit is my flesh, meaning that there's nothing separate from my flesh, nothing separate from my body. Let's continue to read and see how this plays out. Prince Jones was a one of one, and they had destroyed his body, scorched his shoulders and arms, ripped open his back, mangled lung, kidney, and liver. Wow, that's that language there. I'm going to highlight. It's so vivid. Vivid means it's so, like, you can see in very disgusting detail that, he mentions the liver, he mentions the kidney, he mentions the lung, he mentions the back. He mentions this. Why does he mention these things? Because the soul, the most important thing for Ta-Nehisi Coates is the body. TNC believes, or I should say, does not believe in the soul. In the soul or spirit. Spirit. So he focuses all his attention on the body. And that makes sense, because a lot of people died, and we can't just say, oh, they're in a better place now, and just to make ourselves feel comfortable. No, he's saying, no, that person is gone. You can see it in the next sentence. I sat there feeling myself a heretic. Heretic, by the way, means a non-believer, or someone who believes in different and false beliefs. Believing only in this one-shot life and the body. He believes only in this life, in the body. And for the crime of destroying the body of Prince Jones, I did not believe in forgiveness. When the assembled mourners bowed their heads in prayer, I was divided from them because I believed that the void would not answer back. Wow, that is powerful. So, he obviously, the void here, by the way, is like some. So just think about you looking into a dark room and you can't see anything. That's a void. Okay, I'm gonna leave a note here. Void equals like a gap or a space. And the void here could be God. Like when you pray, you're praying into space, right? And you expect God to respond back to you, but Ta-Nehisi Coates does not believe God will respond back. Okay? So when I think about this, when I think about Ta-Nehisi Coates' focus on the body, the lung, the kidney, the liver, the one-shot life, the spirit is his flesh, the voltage in the neurons and nerves. When I think about him focusing on the body, it makes sense that it's hard for him to forgive, right? It says here, so forgiving the killer of Prince Jones would have seemed irrelevant to me. Oops, sorry about that. Why is it irrelevant, or why is it not related to him? Well, because they took Prince Jones's body, and that's the only thing that you have, your body. So it makes sense here that Ta-Nehisi Coates does not really believe in forgiveness, and he believes more so in justice, meaning that whoever killed Prince Jones, that is democracy, Americans in general, need to wake up and fix the situation, really, or well, you know, the solutions will be found later in this book, but he doesn't really believe in this, you know, happy, hey, we're all equal now, hey, let's just link arms and walk down a street and say kumbaya, hey, we're great. No, because people's lives have been taken away, their bodies have been taken away, and he can't so easily just say, oh, everything's better now, oh, he's in a better place, because he doesn't believe that. Okay, so that's me annotating this text here very lightly. I think you can do more. If you didn't know a word, for example, like mangled, you should definitely go look it up. I know off the top of my head, mangled means torn up or ripped up. Okay? All right.